Stop scrolling for a moment. Just pause right where you are. Because in the next 60 seconds, if you truly open your heart, God can change everything. Your situation, your finances, your family, your future, nothing is too hard for Him. This is not superstition. It's not a fantasy. It's the living promise of God, spoken through His Word. Jesus said in Matthew 7:7, "Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and the door shall be opened unto you." That's not just poetic language. It's divine truth. It's heaven speaking directly to your need. You see, when God makes a promise, He never breaks it. He doesn't forget what He said. He doesn't change His mind. His word stands eternal, firm through generations, unshaken by time or circumstance. Maybe you've prayed before and felt like nothing happened. Maybe you've cried and no one seemed to hear. But friend, let me tell you something. God heard every word, every whisper, every sigh in the middle of the night when you thought you were alone. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. God knows your name. He knows your address. He knows exactly what you need and when you need it. He's not late. He's not absent. He's waiting for the moment when your heart is ready to trust Him completely. Sometimes we look around and think, how could God possibly fix this? The bills are due. The marriage feels broken. The diagnosis looks hopeless. But the truth is, God can do in 24 hours what you couldn't do in 24 months. He can open doors no man can close. He can restore what years of pain have taken away. One word from heaven can shift your entire story. But here's the key. The most powerful prayers are not shouted in public. They are whispered in private. Jesus Himself taught us this. When you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. And your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you openly. There's power in the secret place. It's not about how loud you pray, how long you pray, or how impressive your words sound. It's about the posture of your heart. When you come before God in humility, when you bring Him your tears, your fears, your doubts, heaven moves in that quiet space where no one else is watching. Miracles begin. That's where burdens lift. That's where chains break. That's where your faith becomes real. Because God isn't looking for perfection, He's looking for honesty. He wants the real you, the one that's tired, unsure, maybe even broken. Because He specializes in restoring what's broken. You see, prayer is not about convincing God to do something. It's about aligning your heart with His will. When you pray, you're not changing God's mind. You're allowing Him to change your heart. And when your heart changes, everything around you begins to shift. Maybe right now you're fighting battles no one else can see. You smile in public, but you're exhausted inside. You carry pain you can't explain. But if you'll just take a moment, step into that quiet space and whisper, "God, I need you," something will begin to happen. The presence of God will meet you there. Not with noise, not with thunder, but with peace. That peace that surpasses all understanding, the peace that tells you, "I am with you, even here." There's a reason Jesus withdrew from the crowds to pray alone. He understood that divine power flows through divine privacy. He didn't need an audience. He needed alignment. And the same is true for you. When you shut the door to the world and open your heart to heaven, you create space for God to speak, to guide, to heal. Sometimes we wait for a preacher, a miracle service, or a special moment. But God says, just come to me, not tomorrow. Not when you have it all figured out now, because this moment, this very second, could be the turning point of your life. So stop worrying about how long you've been waiting. Stop replaying the disappointments of the past. If you've been praying and haven't seen results, don't give up. Dig deeper. God often works in the waiting. He's preparing things you cannot see. He's aligning hearts, positioning people, arranging circumstances, all while you pray. Sometimes silence is not absence. It's strategy. When heaven seems quiet, it's because God is building something that takes time. And when it's ready, when the moment is right, the answer will come suddenly. Remember, prayer is not a ritual. It's a relationship. It's not about religion, it's about connection. When you speak to God, you're speaking to the creator of galaxies, yet the one who still counts the tears that fall from your eyes. He is vast enough to rule the universe, yet personal enough to whisper, "I love you." And when you understand that, prayer no longer feels like an obligation, it becomes your lifeline. It becomes your place of strength when everything else falls apart. It becomes your secret weapon in a world that tries to break you down. If only you knew how much heaven moves when you pray. Angels are dispatched, doors begin to open, favor begins to flow. God begins to work behind the scenes in ways you can't imagine. That's the mystery of faith, believing even when you don't see, trusting even when you don't understand. And one day, you'll look back and realize the moments you thought were silent were actually sacred. The delays were divine protection. The waiting was preparation for something greater. So right now, wherever you are, whether you're in your room, in your car, or sitting in silence, take a deep breath. Let go of the noise. Forget the world for a moment and say these words, "Father, I trust you." It's all it takes to begin again. Because when a heart turns toward God, heaven responds. You don't need the perfect words. You don't need a crowd. You just need faith the size of a mustard seed, and that's enough to move mountains. So today, step into that secret place. Close the door. Let the world fade away. And let the presence of God surround you, because the breakthrough you've been praying for, the answer you've been waiting for, the miracle you've been hoping for, it could begin right now. In this very moment of surrender, remember this: God never breaks a promise. He never forgets his children. And when you pray in secret, your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. Stay still, stay faithful, stay in prayer, because the same God who parted the Red Sea still opens impossible doors today. And he's about to do something in your life that will leave no doubt. It was him all along. Faith is the deciding factor. It's the invisible key that unlocks the impossible. You can pray long prayers, you can say all the right words, but if faith isn't there, those words are just noise echoing into the air. Because prayer without faith doesn't move mountains, it barely moves the heart of the one who's praying. But prayer with faith, it shakes heaven itself. It opens doors that have been shut for years. It brings light into the darkest rooms and hope into the most desperate hearts. Faith is not just believing that God can do something. It's trusting that he will. It's the quiet conviction that even when you can't see him working, he's still moving pieces into place. Faith is what turns maybe into miracle. Think about it every time you pray, you're speaking directly to the creator of the universe, the one who hung the stars, who commands the oceans, who knows every hair on your head, and yet he listens to you. But what moves his heart isn't the sound of your voice, it's the posture of your belief. When you pray with faith, you're saying, "God, I don't see how, but I trust you anyway." That simple trust can change everything, Jesus said. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, "Move from here to there," and it will move. He didn't say you needed perfect faith or unshakable confidence, just a seed, just a start, because God doesn't need much to work with. He just needs your yes. He just needs your heart to believe that he can. Faith is the bridge between your prayer and your miracle. It's what turns words into power. And once you understand that, your whole approach to life changes. You stop begging and start believing. You stop worrying and start worshiping. You stop talking about the size of your problem and start declaring the greatness of your God. Because faith doesn't deny the reality of your situation. It declares the higher reality of God's promise. Faith says, "Yes, the mountain is big, but my God is bigger." Faith says, "Yes, I'm waiting, but I know he's working." And here's something many people overlook. Faith and gratitude walk hand in hand. You cannot have real faith without a thankful heart. Because when you're grateful, you're acknowledging that everything good in your life is not an accident, it's a blessing. Let's talk about that word for a moment, blessing. A blessing is not just a nice word or a polite phrase, it's spiritual power. When you speak blessing, you are releasing divine energy into your situation. you are inviting heaven to invade the natural. When you bless your finances, you are saying, God, I trust you to multiply what I have. When you bless your work, you are saying, Lord, let your favor rest upon the work of my hands. When you bless your family, you are saying, Father, surround them with your protection and peace. Blessing isn't wishful thinking, it's a weapon of faith. Every time you speak blessing, you are aligning your words with the will of God, and the Bible makes it clear. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. Proverbs 18:21, what you speak, you sow. Words are seeds, and the atmosphere you live in is the harvest of your tongue. If your words are filled with complaining, you're planting seeds of lack and limitation. But if your words are filled with gratitude and blessing, you're planting seeds of abundance, peace, and joy. Every time you say, I'm thankful, you are reminding your spirit that God has already been good to you. Every time you say, I'm blessed, you're giving your faith permission to grow. Gratitude magnifies grace, opens your eyes to see what God is already doing. We often think blessings come from what we receive, but sometimes blessings are released by what we speak. That's why God calls us to bless others. When you bless someone, you're not just wishing them well, you're activating the supernatural. You're acknowledging that God's resources are unlimited, that there's enough grace, enough mercy, enough favor to go around. Luke 6:38 says, Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. It's not just about money, it's about your attitude of the heart. When you give love, it comes back overflowing. When you speak kindness, it returns multiplied. When you bless others, God blesses you. There's a beautiful mystery in this. When you release blessing, you're not losing something, you're making room for more. Because the moment you let go of bitterness, God fills you with peace. The moment you let go of envy, He fills you with joy. The moment you choose to bless instead of curse, step into the flow of divine abundance. Sometimes we underestimate the power of our words. We speak carelessly, not realizing that heaven listens. The angels of God respond to words of faith, but they stay silent in the face of words of fear. So ask yourself, what kind of world are my words building? Am I speaking life over my situation? Or am I reinforcing my struggle by constantly talking about it? If you want to see change, start with your mouth. Bless your future, even when it looks uncertain. Bless your children, even when they're far from God. Bless your finances, even when the numbers don't add up. Bless your enemies, even when it feels undeserved. Because when you bless instead of curse, you rise above your emotions and align yourself with God's heart. Remember, God cannot fill what you refuse to release. If you hold on to resentment, there's no room for peace. If you hold on to fear, there's no room for faith. But when you let go, when you choose to speak blessing, you make space for miracles. Maybe you've gone through a season of lack. Maybe you've prayed and waited and nothing seems to change. Don't stop believing. God's timing is never wrong. Sometimes He delays the blessing because He's preparing you to carry it. Faith doesn't always remove the waiting, it redeems it. It teaches you to trust even when nothing makes sense. The Bible says, the just shall live by faith. It means faith isn't just something we use when we need help. It's the way we breathe, the way we live, the way we walk. Faith should be your language, your rhythm, your daily decision, and gratitude. Gratitude is the song of a heart that trusts. When you thank God in advance, you're saying, Lord, I believe you're already working, even if I can't see it yet. That's the kind of faith that moves heaven. So today, I want to challenge you. Before you complain about what's missing, bless what you have. Before you speak fear, speak faith. Before you talk about your problem, talk to your God. You are not powerless. You have the authority to shift the atmosphere with your words. You have the ability to call things that are not as though they were. Because you carry the Spirit of the living God inside of you, and His power moves through the faith you speak. Don't underestimate the miracle that can happen when you choose faith. When you choose blessing, when you choose gratitude, it may look small, but heaven takes notice. And in due time, the same God who promised to reward those who seek Him will open the windows of heaven and pour out blessings. So great you won't have room to contain them. Faith decides what kind of life you live. Blessing determines what kind of legacy you leave. And gratitude decides how much peace you experience along the way. So today, speak life, speak faith, speak blessing. Because the same power that raised Jesus from the dead is in you, and it's waiting for your words to release it. Believe it, speak it, live it, and watch as God turns your faith into favor, your prayers into power, and your life into a living testimony of His goodness. Gratitude is the weapon of faith. It's not just good manners or positive thinking. It's a spiritual force that opens the gates of heaven. Gratitude is what transforms an ordinary prayer into a powerful declaration of trust. When you thank God in advance, you are telling Him, Lord, I believe you are already working even before I see it. And that kind of faith moves mountains, you see. The heart that gives thanks before the miracle is the heart that truly understands who God is. Before Jesus multiplied the loaves and fish, He didn't complain about how little there was. He didn't panic or worry. He lifted what He had to heaven, gave thanks, and then the miracle happened. Gratitude came before multiplication. Thanksgiving preceded abundance. That's the divine pattern. Gratitude first, breakthrough second. Most people wait until something good happens to say thank you. But Jesus showed us a different way. Don't wait until you have plenty to be grateful. Be grateful when you have little. Be thankful even when it doesn't make sense. Because gratitude isn't based on what's in your hand. It's based on who holds your life. When you begin to live with a thankful heart, something shifts inside you. Fear begins to lose its grip. Worry starts to fade. The atmosphere of your heart becomes fertile ground for miracles. Because God always works best in an atmosphere of faith and gratitude. And that's why gratitude is not weakness, it's warfare. It's how you fight the battles of life without losing your peace. When you thank God in the middle of the storm, you are declaring that the storm doesn't control you, your faith does. When you say, Lord, I thank you, even while your heart is breaking, you are placing your trust in His goodness, not your circumstances. Let me share something simple yet life-changing, what I call the 60-second prayer. It's not a magic formula. It's a moment, one sacred minute where heaven and earth meet. Step 1. Begin with gratitude. Before you ask for anything, pause and thank God for what you already have. Thank Him for the air you breathe, for the roof over your head, for the strength in your body, for the people you love, for the lessons learned, even through pain. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's present. And when you recognize His presence, you unlock His power. A heart full of thanks is a magnet for miracles. Because God is drawn to gratitude. It's the language of faith. When you say thank you, you're not just being polite. You're opening a door for God to do more. You're saying, Father, I trust you. I may not understand everything, but I know you are good. Step 2. Ask specifically. Be clear about what you're praying for. Don't just say, Lord, bless me. Say, Lord, I need your guidance in this decision. Or Father, heal this relationship, or provide the resources for this need. When the blind man Bartimaeus cried out to Jesus, he didn't say, Lord, do something. He said, Rabbi, I want to see. He asked specifically, and Jesus responded specifically. Faith is not vague. Faith knows what it believes for. God delights in specific prayers because they show that we're paying attention, that we believe He's real, personal, and powerful enough to meet us where we are. Step 3. Visualize it by faith. See it in your spirit before it appears in your life. Imagine what it will look like when that prayer is answered. See your healing. See your restoration. See your breakthrough. Because faith is the evidence of things not yet seen. When you close your eyes in prayer and picture that door opening, that prodigal returning home, that peace settling in your heart, you're aligning your vision with God's promise. You're saying, Lord, I can't see it with my eyes yet, but I see it with my faith. And heaven honors that. Step 4. Surrender completely. After you've thanked Him, asked Him, and believed, let it go. Leave it in God's hands. Because faith that holds on to worry isn't faith at all. The greatest proof of trust is peace. When you surrender, you're saying, God, I've done my part, now I'll rest while you work. That's what Jesus meant when he said, do not worry about tomorrow. Worry is believing the worst can happen. Faith is trusting that God already has a plan. When you release control, you make room for divine intervention. Think of it like lightning. Lightning only strikes when heaven and earth align. The same is true with prayer. When your faith aligns with God's power, something electric happens. Heaven touches earth. The natural meets the supernatural. When faith and gratitude meet, miracles are inevitable. Because gratitude anchors your faith, it keeps your heart in the right posture, even when you're still waiting. It tells heaven, I already believe you've done it, friend. A single minute in God's presence can change everything. You don't need hours of perfect words. You just need 60 seconds of real faith. When you speak from your heart with gratitude, clarity, belief, and surrender, heaven leans in. And the beautiful thing is, God doesn't measure your prayers by length, but by depth. One heartfelt moment of genuine faith is more powerful than 1,000 empty words. So try it today. Find a quiet place, maybe in your car, at your desk, or before you go to sleep. Take 1 minute. Start by saying, Father, thank you. Thank you for life, for mercy, for this very breath. Then tell him what you need. Be honest. Speak from your heart. See it as already done. Picture the answer in your mind. And finally, surrender it to him. Lord, I trust you. I leave it in your hands. Then breathe. Let peace fill your soul. That's it. That's the 60-second prayer that can shift your day, your mindset, your life. Sometimes we think we need big faith for big miracles, but that's not true. Jesus said all it takes is faith the size of a mustard seed. What makes it powerful is not its size, it's its direction. When that tiny seed of faith is pointed toward a limitless God, impossible things happen. Gratitude fuels that faith. Every thank you is like water to that seed. It nourishes it, strengthens it, helps it grow. And over time, it's those little moments of faith and gratitude build a life filled with peace and blessing. Maybe you've been waiting for something, a breakthrough, sign, an answer. Don't let the waiting steal your worship. Keep thanking God even before you see the result. Because gratitude says, I trust the process. Gratitude says, even if it hasn't happened yet, I know it's on the way. Faith isn't blind optimism. It's confident assurance in a faithful God. And gratitude is the sound of that faith speaking. Every time you thank him, you are aligning your heart with heaven's rhythm. The truth is, miracles aren't random. They happen where faith lives and gratitude breathes. And when you combine both, your prayer becomes more than words. It becomes a bridge between the impossible and the possible. So don't underestimate what 1 minute of sincere prayer can do. 1 minute of gratitude can shift your atmosphere. 1 minute of faith can move mountains. 1 minute of surrender can change your destiny. And if you ever wonder whether God hears you, remember this. Before you even spoke, he already knew your need. Before you even asked, he was already preparing the answer. Your prayer doesn't inform God, it invites him. Your gratitude doesn't change. His nature, it positions your heart to receive what he's already prepared. So take that moment today. Let your gratitude rise like incense before him. Speak your faith out loud. Release your worry. And let heaven touch earth right there in your heart. Because when you pray with gratitude, when you believe with faith, when you surrender with peace, God moves. In 1 minute in, his presence can do more for you than a lifetime of striving. That's the secret of the 60-second prayer. It's not about time. It's about alignment. When heaven and earth line up, when your heart and God's power meet, miracles are inevitable. And that moment, that sacred 60 seconds, could be the turning point of your entire life. There's a kind of peace that money can't buy, a kind of abundance that goes far beyond what you can see in your bank account. It's the assurance of abundance, the quiet confidence that no matter what happens, God will provide. It's not just about wealth. It's about waking up with peace in your heart, strength in your spirit, and joy in your soul. It's about walking through storms and still saying, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want." When Paul wrote to the Philippians, he made a promise that still speaks to us today. "My God will supply all your needs according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus." Notice something powerful in that verse. It doesn't say God might supply or that he sometimes will. It says he will. That's assurance. That's the promise of abundance rooted in God's character, not our circumstances. True abundance begins when you understand who your provider really is. The world teaches us to chase after more and more money, more possessions, more recognition. But heaven operates differently. God's abundance doesn't start with what's in your hands. It begins with what's in your heart. When your heart is filled with gratitude, with trust, with faith that God is good even when life isn't, then you've already stepped into abundance, you see. Abundance is not about how much you have. It's about how much peace you carry. You can have a full wallet and an empty heart. You can live in a big house and still feel restless inside. But when you have the assurance that God is your source, you can rest even in scarcity, because you know that his supply never runs dry. David understood this when he wrote, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want." He didn't say that because his life was perfect. David faced betrayal, battles, and heartbreak. But he knew something deeper, that his shepherd would always lead him to green pastures, even if he had to walk through valleys first. Abundance doesn't mean you won't face challenges. It means that even in your challenges, you're covered by divine provision. Faith gives you that assurance. Faith isn't just believing that God can do something, it's believing that he will, according to his timing and purpose. Faith is what keeps you steady when everything else shakes. It's what whispers, he's still working. When your eyes can't yet see the evidence, sometimes we measure God's faithfulness by what we see around us. We think, if I'm blessed, he's faithful. If I'm struggling, maybe he's forgotten me. But that's not how faith works. Don't measure God's goodness by your current situation. Measure it by his word. Circumstances change, but his promises do not. His word says he is Jehovah Jireh, the Lord who provides. It says he is El Shaddith, the God who is more than enough. That means no matter what season you're in, you can live with confidence. You can stand in the middle of uncertainty and still say, "I know my God will supply all my needs." So maybe not the way you expect, maybe not when you expect, but always in a way that's for your good and his glory. The assurance of abundance is not about denying reality. It's about declaring truth. It's not pretending that everything's fine. It's trusting that even when it's not, God is still in control. When you have that kind of faith, you stop living in fear of lack. You stop worrying about tomorrow because you know who holds tomorrow. When you speak words of life, when you bless instead of complain, when you give thanks even in the waiting, you align your heart with heaven. That's when miracles happen. Gratitude opens the windows of heaven. It shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already given. It's like turning a key in the lock of divine provision. There's a spiritual law at work here. When you plant seeds of faith, gratitude, and generosity, heaven responds. You might not see the harvest yet, but the seed is already in the soil. God is already watering it. He's already preparing the right conditions for it to grow. Don't dig up your seed with words of doubt. Instead, speak life over it. Declare, "God, I thank you, because even though I don't see it yet, I know you're working." Maybe today you feel like you're in a dry season. You've been praying, believing, giving, and nothing seems to move. Let me remind you, the seed doesn't grow the moment it's planted. It grows when it's nurtured by faith. Beneath the surface, roots are forming. Strength is building. The miracle is developing quietly. One day, when the time is right, it will break through the soil. And you'll see what God has been doing all along. That's the assurance of abundance. It's not the absence of waiting, it's the confidence that waiting is not wasted. Every prayer, every act of faith, every word of gratitude becomes part of the story God is writing in your life. When you live from that assurance, you walk differently. You stop striving and you start resting. You stop worrying about how it will happen, and you start trusting the one who makes it happen. You stop saying, I don't have enough, and you start declaring, my God is more than enough. Jehovah Jireh doesn't just provide what you need, he provides with overflow. El Shaddai doesn't just fill your cup, he makes it run over. That's why David said, my cup overflows. That's the picture of divine abundance, not scarcity. Not just enough, but more than enough. And when your heart is overflowing with gratitude, your life begins to overflow with blessing. Not just material blessings, but peace in chaos, hope in despair, and joy in the middle of uncertainty. That's the kind of abundance the world can't take away. So today, let this truth sink deep into your spirit. God's abundance is already on its way. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to fear that you've missed it. Just stay faithful, stay thankful, and keep speaking life. Even if the field looks empty, trust that the harvest is coming. Even if the sky looks quiet, trust that the rain is near. When you live in faith, gratitude, and expectation, heaven's windows remain open above you. You may not see the full picture, but God is painting something beautiful behind the scenes. Remember this: abundance is not a destination. It's a mindset anchored in faith. It's waking up every morning and saying, God, I may not have everything I want, but I have everything I need in you. It's looking at what seems small and saying, thank you, Lord, for this seed, because I know you can multiply it. When you do, watch what happens. Watch how peace replaces anxiety. Watch how opportunities open. Watch how God takes your little and turns it into more than enough. He is the same God who multiplied bread and fish, the same God who filled empty jars with oil, the same God who made water flow from a rock, and he has not changed. The God who provided then still provides now. So hold your head high, lift your heart, and walk with assurance. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. You are loved, cared for, and surrounded by divine provision. You are walking under an open heaven. Even if you haven't seen the harvest yet, remember the seed is already planted, and the blessing is already on its way. God is faithful. He is Jehovah Jireh, your provider. He is El Shaddai, the God who is more than enough. That is your assurance of abundance.